This right next to me is the Ford Ranger Sport, and it sits above the XLT and below the Wildtrak. And the Sport is priced from $66,000 before on-road costs, which seems like better value in comparison to the Wildtrak. So in this full detailed review, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about it, and I'm also going to give you a brief overview of the model range and its options. And then we're going to move on to the design, its interior, the technology, the safety tech, and I'm also going to see how practical this is. And finally, we're going to go out for a drive to see if the Ranger Sport is the model variant you should go for. And before we start, please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to receive notifications every time I upload a new car review. But for now, let's get straight into the video. In Australia, the Ranger is priced from $57,000, climbing past $90,000 before on-road costs, with the choice between a 4-cylinder and a V6 engine. And if we focus on the sports grade, for the 4-cylinder version, that is priced from $66,000, and stepping up to the V6 version, which is the variant I'm featuring in the video, this is priced from just over $71,000 before on-road costs. And in regards to optional extras, there are 5 external colours to choose from, and in addition to that, there are also different packages and standalone options to pick from. And in terms of key rivals, the Ranger Sport is the type of vehicle that competes with the Toyota HiLux SR5 and the all-new Mitsubishi Triton. Let's now move on to the design. So the colour of this example is finished off in aluminium, and to identify this as a Ranger Sport, as you can see, the front looks very similar to an XLT, but apart from all of the chrome trim, the Sport receives this grey trim across the grille, the F-Truck themed C-clamp headlight design. However, it is worth noting that this isn't a full LED system like what is equipped on some of the more expensive models, but you still get LED fog lights down below, and on the lower section some additional cladding, rated recovery points, and steel underbody protection to protect all of the internals. And in regards to off-road specifications, all of that key data is on your screen now. And now moving towards the side view of the Ranger Sport. So this particular version is equipped with 18-inch two-tone alloy wheels with all-round disc brakes opposed to a drum brake setup at the rear. And as standard, the Sport comes equipped with all-season tyres. But if you are planning on using this as an off-road vehicle, as an option, you can equip the Ranger Sport with Goodyear Wrangler all-terrain tyres. And in addition to other key features specific to the Sport, up the top there, big chunky roof rails, privacy glass across the third quarter, and more grey trim across the mirrors and door handles. And you also get a sports bar as standard, but as you can see, this particular car has been equipped with Ford's flexible rack system. And if we look lower down, big chunky plastic side steps, and finally looking towards the rear, a side step to make it easier climbing into the tray. And now moving towards the rear design of the Ranger Sport. So from the back we've got partial LED lighting, which means there are incandescent globes for the indicators and reversing lights, and as well as a big large Ford badge and a Sport badge off to the right hand side. And if we look lower down, a plastic side step with integrated LED lighting and grey inserts. And looking below the tray, a full-size spare tyre. And finally, as you can see, this has been equipped with the touring package, which includes this connection here, and as well as an integrated trailer brake controller inside the cabin. And it's also worth noting that the Ranger Sport V6 has a brake towing capacity of 3,500 kilograms and an unbrake towing capacity of 750 kilograms. Moving on to the cabin inside the Ranger Sport. So before you climb inside, this features a remote key, keyless entry, and push power start for the ignition. Now, if we start off by talking about the presentation, at this current time, the Ford Ranger definitely has the best interior compared with its other rivals. And in terms of key features, what you're getting over the XLT, instead of cloth seats, you get leather accented seats. That includes 8-way power adjustment with lumbar support, whereas for the passenger side, they are manually operated. And the Sport also comes equipped with dual zone climate control with physical dials and buttons, along with a dedicated climate control menu within the infotainment. And in regards to build quality, the door slam feels fairly solid. Up the top here is soft to the touch, and even on the armrest where you rest your elbow. And of course, like all cars, lower down it starts to get a bit durable, and looking further up the top, scratchy materials, and that is the same story on the lower sections around the center console, but you still get a soft to the touch armrest, and the steering wheel also feels very good to grip onto. And if we now move on to infotainment, it all runs off this 8-inch touchscreen, and as you can see, it is fairly responsive. You can also cycle through different menus up the top here. And in regards to key features, this has AM, FM, DAB digital radio, USB and Bluetooth connectivity, and as well as a 6-speaker stereo system, which sounds okay. And you've also got a button here for the voice control, and you can also sync that in with Siri integration. And in addition to that, there is also inbuilt satellite navigation with 3D mapping, and that is what that looks like on the screen, so very clear and precise. And for smartphone mirroring, this has both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which are both wireless. And as you can see, the car is connected, which means the Ranger includes over-the-air updates and the ability to control the car's functions through the Ford Pass app. And if I go into this menu, this is your sketch pad. So this might come across useful if you have kids. And if we go into this menu, a dedicated towing menu where you have the ability to add on a trailer and also perform a trailer checklist to make sure all the connections are in check. And if we now move on to safety, if I click this button here, you get a surround view camera as standard. However, this being equipped with the touring package, you get this 360-degree camera that includes multi-angle views. And it's also worth noting that part of that package includes 4-zone lighting, Pro Trailer Backup Assist, the cargo management system, and as well as the auxiliary switches up the top here. And coming back to safety, there are front and rear parking sensors, and as well as a rear cross traffic alert. And looking up the top here, an auto dimming revision mirror, along with a connection here for a dash cam. There is also autonomous emergency braking, blind spot monitoring on the wing mirrors, a lane departure warning and a lane keeping assistant, which means the Ranger Sport has the ability to steer itself within its lane, adaptive cruise control that keeps you within distance between yourself and the vehicle in front, and up the top here, speed sign recognition. And if we now move on to this display in the center, as you can see, it is slightly configurable, looking at fuel consumption, an off-road screen, navigation and other key data. And moving on to driving modes, you've got a four-wheel drive selected down the bottom. That includes two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive high range, and as well as four-wheel drive low range, and specific to this V6 version, four-wheel drive automatic for sealed surfaces. And next, by cycling through this toggle here, you can change it from eco, normal and tow, and as well as slippery, mud and sand. And if we now move on to off-road features, starting off with this menu, this is your dedicated off-road screen, which includes a front view camera and the ability to cycle through different menus. And this is also where you engage hill descent control and the rear differential lock. And finally, practicality. So what you do get over the XLT is a wireless phone charging pad, but you do miss out on the pop-out cup holders and the top glove box like what is featured on the Wildtrak. But there is still this cutaway along here and a decent sized glove box which fits all that paperwork in. Additionally, there is also a spot here for a phone and a USB-C and a USB-A port, two small cup holders in the center, and looking underneath here, decent center storage with a 12-volt socket down below, and up the top here, a sunglasses holder, and finally on the doors, decent door bin storage that could also fit a bottle of water. Moving on to the back seat, so as you can see, this front row seat is set in my driving position, and from what we can see, I've got decent knee room, toe room, and decent headroom as well. And with 3 adults in the back, it might come across a bit tight, but overall for the category, good knee room, toe room, and good headroom. Additionally, there are also mat pockets behind the front row seats, and lower down, decent door bin storage that could also fit a bottle of water. And looking towards the center, directional air vents with a 12-volt socket down below it. There are also grab handles up the top here and over here as well, along with some hooks behind me. And looking towards the center section, a flip down armrest with 2 small cup holders, and you could also fold this section down to reveal a flat load bay, and you can also raise the bottom section up as well. And finally, for child seats, the 2 outboard seats are ISOFIX compatible, and right behind me there are 2 top tether points. Let's now move on to the tray. So if I open this up, as you can see, the tailgate opening is nice and light, and from what I can see, there's plenty of space back there. And to give you an idea on the size, Ford does claim that you can fit a full-size Euro pallet in between the wheel arches. And in regards to dimensions, specifications and other key data, all of that information is on the screen now. And in addition to other key features, the Sport comes with a spray and bed liner as standard, as well as some pull down points, LED lighting, a 12-volt socket on the left hand side, and these adjustable tie down hooks that you can move around to your preference, but it is worth noting that you don't get a toner cover or a roller shutter as standard. So for an additional $3,000, you can equip this with a manually adjustable roller shutter. And in terms of operation, to open the tray, side by side you pull on these tabs, and to close it, you just pull on the rope to put that tray back into its position. Let's now move on to the powertrain. So under the bonnet features a 3-litre V6 turbo diesel engine that produces 184 kilowatts and 600 newton-meters of torque, and this is paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission with a selectable forward drive system, which means you've got the ability to run this in 4A on sealed surfaces, and that is of course exclusive to the V6 models. And in regards to ownership, Ford Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty and up to 7 years of roadside assistance. And for the servicing intervals, it is every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, and each visit to the dealership will set you back $379 for the first 4 years. Okay, moving on to the driving impressions. So at the front, I've got great visibility over the bonnet. There's also good side vision, decent sized wing mirrors, and at the back, great vision as well. And of course, being equipped with the touring package, you get the 360-degree camera. So what is this like to drive at lower speeds? Well, the throttle application is nice and smooth, the brake pedal feel is pretty good, and the steering is electric opposed to a hydraulic system, which means this is nice and maneuverable and direct at the same time. You've also got a turning circle radius of around 12.9 meters, and when you do put it in four-wheel drive automatic, you do have a bit more grip in comparison to the rear-wheel drive 4-cylinder version. And in regards to fuel consumption, Ford claims that this V6 powered Ranger should be able to achieve 8.4 litres per 100, and driving around in four-wheel drive, I achieved around 10 litres per 100, and swapping it into rear-wheel drive, that did drop down to 9 litres per 100, and I would expect this to achieve around 7 litres on the freeway, which I think it should. And if we now talk about the refinement, which is where the Ranger shines in comparison to its other key rivals, it is still leaf sprung at the back, it still sits on a ladder frame chassis, but suspension wise, it does tackle the bumps really well. And for a very long time, even the previous generation Ranger, it always was the best in terms of comfort. But my opinion on that might change when I drive the Kia Tasman, because that is equipped with Kia's Aussie ride and handling tune, which means it should drive really well. So that might be a bit of a game changer that we'll see in the upcoming future. And in terms of performance, if I put my foot down, it's got plenty of pick up and go. You're not necessarily using all of the power, so I think for everyday driving, the 4-cylinder is fine. But of course, being equipped with the V6, you get 4-wheel drive automatic for sealed surfaces, which means you do have more grip when you're going around corners. So whether or not if that suits your scenario, driving around the countryside on a wet surface, I think the V6 version is definitely the one to go for. So with my driving impressions out of the way, let's now wrap up with a verdict. So what is my final verdict on the Ford Ranger Sport? Well, overall, there are some good enhancements to this package, but once you start ticking some optional extras and factoring in what isn't included that you do get with the Wild Track, it does make more sense to stretch your budget and really go for the top selling model. And in regards to which engine I would go for, although I like this V6 and you do have that full-time four-wheel drive system, for what I need the car to do, I think the 4-cylinder is more than capable. But write down your feedback on which engine you would go for and share your thoughts on my verdict down in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications every time I upload a new car review. But for now, I will see you in the next film. Thanks for watching.